Welcome to Quick Bytes with Amit. Hi, Amit.
Hi.
Amit, today's topic, I thought it's privacy and national security.
Okay.
Does government involving themselves in having access to private data of an individual, and how we should treat it? Like, is it to be left private, or it should be brought into the scope of national security and have all the access to the data?
Well, if we can take care of everything about ourselves and we don't need a government, then government should not have access to any data of mine. But if we depend on the government to give us security, give us, civil services, for example, healthcare, and I'm not talking about just you and I, right, at large. So then for sure, how does government give without having data about you, about me? So the government should have, for sure, access to private data. What private data are we talking about? Whatever is there, for example, if we give for our driving license or for our Aadhaar card or in passport, I don't think the government normally asks for anything more. For example, the government does not ask how many cigarettes I smoked over the last 50 years. Okay? I'm just giving that example because that's one of the worst sides I have to my life still. I'm working on it. But the government doesn't ask me about my vulnerabilities, about my psychological weaknesses, about my bad habits or things like that. Government is not asking me, did I steal money from my father or my employer, okay, for example, which will make me feel probably ashamed in my own eyes. So what does the government ask? The government asks normal, typical data, and anywhere. And if the government doesn't ask it, how will the government govern? How does the government know whom to govern? How many people are there? For example, we grumble about, let's say, bad roads in Bangalore. Okay. Now, how many vehicles are supposed to ply those roads? How many people, if the government doesn't know how many people are living, how will they know? Without doing a census. And if you do a census, obviously you want to know who is this, your gender, where do they live, what is the age, etc. How many people, members in the family, who is earning, who is not earning.
Basic security data you're talking about.
Yeah, what else?
UK government came up asking for metadata. Metadata is your Insta and Facebook data. Why will the government need that data for access?
I don't know. I'm not the UK government, so I really am not qualified to answer. But I can have a guess since you asked the question. What does metadata? This is a private company owned by a capitalist who is supporting a person like Donald Trump today, for example, is probably about the views, the opinions, etc., which are sold through the marketing of likes and not dislikes. Meta is Facebook, right?
Yes.
Largely. So Facebook doesn't have a dislike. YouTube has one, but Facebook doesn't have. Why? Because you want to, collect all and everybody who want to be in your echo chamber. You want to be amongst people who say aye to you, aye sir, right? So basically, you are a narcissist. You're basically a narcissist looking for everybody, or even forget narcissist. You are probably even also what is the other word? You mentioned sometime back.
Nepotist.
A nepotist. Yeah, you just want to be right in your own eyes, and that is how then some messages which are deliberately spread across this social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or wherever. This is what feeds the minds of people. Okay, and probably that is why they want to know which kind of views are being liked or being attracted to by certain groups of people. Because after all, if, for example, we do not only have cyber security threat for running a government from people who can damage your softwares and systems that you use, but we have threats by people who feel marginalized. We have threats by people who feel that they are minorities and they are not affected, taken care of, for example. Of course, which is also a government's job, 100%, right? The government needs to know somebody who is planning something which may not be good for the overall society, or which may not allow the government to protect the security of the country. Now, what is the country? The country is the people who live in this country, for sure. And of course, the government may have, the ruling government, the government of the day, the political establishment, for example, they may have a vested interest to use this data for their own political interest. That will be wrong for sure if it is that. But then it's a very, I won't even call it a thin line. I think it's almost a fuzzy barrier between, because how do you say the political leadership which is running a government is bad or good? True. You can say that only in the next election when you make them lose or win. Right? Because democracy is a system where the top executive finally is the political leadership, right? And not the bureaucratic leadership, for example. So therefore, this is the risk you take if you want to be in a democratic society. The government has to govern. For example, even capitalism, if it is not governed by the government, okay, it ends up with the billionaires running your country. True. Like we are seeing today apparently happening in the US, for example. And so without, qualifying what is the responsibility of a government within the structure of democracy, and most democracies or all democracies are also working in the capitalistic society, because we have no more other ism left anymore. It's capitalism alone. And the government needs to also control capitalism. Otherwise, you have wealth only going on one side. I mean, how can one person be the richest man on earth with, I don't know what are the numbers, 100 billion, 50 billion, 60 billion. He lost overnight due to one Trump statement, 16 billion. I don't understand this. Okay, I mean, anybody and everybody doesn't even need a billion to have a happy life, actually, forget, or maybe if one or couple of millions is fine, because money does buy some happinesses for sure, but not for, conveniences, not for long, but yes, it's okay. So government, why UK government asked for it, none of my business. I'm neither a British citizen nor I live in that country. Yeah, I visit sometimes. I have good friends also, a few of them from the country, but maybe I have to ask them. But if the government asks for data, I have no problems with it, because I expect the government to take care of my not livelihood per se, but at least my life, my security, the civic requirements around me. I expect it.
Being in the democracy, it's important that you believe in the government, and it's important that the data is shared. Otherwise, you'll have to leave the country and go to the governments which are working in your favor.
I would not go that far as to say that you have to believe in the government, but the point is you have to believe in democracy. If you do not believe in democracy, then you have to become a revolutionary, and you have to bring in another crazy, whatever it crazy or crazy, right? And if you are not doing that, and you are only sitting like us sitting on an armchair and saying the government is bad, that doesn't make the government change anyway. And we know how many governments have not been good, for example, even today. But that has nothing to do with whether the government should or should not ask for privacy data from Meta, okay? Nothing to do. A government is not done good for the state of Karnataka where we live, or state of Bengal where somebody lives, or for the entire Union of India, doesn't mean that it doesn't have the right to ask for the data. In my view, no. The data, of course, the government needs. It is like, for example, you work in a company, or you are the startup entrepreneur and you are scaling up, and your company is going from 50 people to 5,000 people. Wouldn't you need all the information about each employee of your company? Otherwise, how do you govern your company? How do you take it to 50,000? How do people in your company grow, for example? You need all the data about all your employees. Yes, a citizen is not an employee, but the government is supposed to bear the responsibility of giving a better life for the citizens, right? So that is where I find the parallel between a CEO or a management team of a company and the government. Now, if your CEO is toxic, right, you have a problem inside the company, but that doesn't mean the CEO should not have access to your HR data. Right? That's it. I think that's the point. The point is whether a leadership is good or not does not destroy the system in which the leadership is supposed to function. You cannot blame the system. You have to blame the leader. You have to see that you can change the leader, and most importantly, you have to become that leader if you can, in your own domain, even if it is just the little community you live in, or a certain social organization you're part of, or you are working in an organization. Most people work in some company or another, or you have your own company. Be that leader that you wish others to be.
You said it, Amit. You said it. I guess that's where the answer lies. You always should work towards the process, and the leader can be one person who actually can drive this change, and it should be process dependent. Let's hear from you as to what you think about this. Leave a comment, pen down your inputs there, and we'll come up with more content like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as I always say, please give your comment if you do not agree to what I said. That's very valuable for me. That gives me the chance to learn more. Thank you.